Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11.
Hello, everybody. Standing Brothers Show, episode number 65.
65.
We are recording live on Friday, approximately 6 minutes before 2 p.m. Now, you're probably saying to yourself, hey, Jacob, it's Saturday, and I'm just not getting an update on my phone, or I'm just not listening to this on whatever streaming platform that you use, Spotify, Apple, whatever. You're saying, hey, I didn't get an update until right now. There's a reason for that. For those of you who don't know, I advertised it on my social media that the show now has a Patreon. People have asked me about this, and they said, hey, is there a way for me to support you financially? Well, indeed there is. Their Patreon is right there, the Standing Brothers Show. I believe it's patreon.com/Standing Brothers Show. You can go there. You can shoot us. So you can join one of the tiers, and you can get the show a day early on the usual Friday. So the Friday and Monday show will still come out on Friday and Monday for Patreon subscribers, and everybody else will get it on Tuesday and Saturday. So that's why this might seem a little bit late.
But it's not. It's perfectly on time. You're just late to the party.
Exactly.
So if you want to support the show financially, which I'm sure we can link it in the description below.
It'll be linked.
If you feel like you like the content you're getting here, please shoot us some money every month if you feel so compelled. That's something that I felt compelled over the last year or so, is that I just consumed a lot of podcasts and a lot of not so much entertainment, but information from different sources. You know what? The least I can do is send you $5 a month. That's the least I can do. And for someone like me who doesn't make a whole lot of money, I can send $5 a month to Eric July and Tim Pool and everybody else. So yeah. If you feel so compelled, and if there are things that you would like us to do, like exclusive content, or maybe some kind of exclusive, like you get to chat with us or whatever, we can open that up to different tiers. If there's things that you want us to do or anything like that, just let us know, and we can work something out. So
yeah, we are very excited about the Patreon. I only have the one tier right now, but as we get more support and things go on, we're gonna increase the offerings and the givings, and eventually at some point the AMAs and the questions and answers will go directly through Patreon for subscribers. But those of you who don't have the app, you can download the app, and then how it's going to work is that typically as soon as the show is over, I usually send it out onto our hosting site, and then it's posted to Spotify. Now it's just going to be scheduled to come out at like 7, 8 o'clock on the day after, and then as soon as the podcast is done, as soon as it's rendered and everything, I'm going to be sending it directly to everybody on their phone, so you'll get it probably 20 minutes after we finish recording, so you're going to give you the most live that we can give to you. So
first to the party.
Thank you. Yeah, it really means a lot.
The first to join the adventure, Jake.
You can join the adventure. Speaking of the adventure, you can follow me on Twitter at JStandridge. Posting a lot of funny things there. I find all of that very fascinating. And you can follow Joe at Joe Stanberg as well.
I have recently discovered GIFs. So those are fun.
Recently?
Recently.
They've been a thing.
I know they've been a thing, but I'm like 1,000 years old. I'm Methuselah over here, so I'm always late to the party.
Yeah,
someone said BRB today, and it said, is that some kind of slang? I didn't know it meant be right back. I didn't know that's what that meant.
I always see BRBRQ. Be right back real quick.
That's so stupid. I don't get why people do that.
Or you could be like Cramer and say TCOB, taking care of business. What are you doing over there, TCOB?
Yeah, I had no idea that BRB meant be right back.
Yeah, that's been
just
a thing.
like LAMO. I had no idea that meant laughing my butt off. I had no idea that's what that meant.
Yeah, that's been a thing.
Maybe I'm just showing my age.
You are indeed. Well, the show email, of course, the Standing Brothers Show at gmail.com. You can shoot us stuff over there. Send us funny things. We're always checking the email. So, yeah, appreciate it. Lot to get into this episode. There's kind of three things that I wanted to talk about. We're going to try to do this as quickly as possible. because there's a lot to pack in. The first thing, though, I want to talk about is, man, we got a celebration to go on, man. We got to celebrate.
What are we celebrating?
Bro, it's the 1 year anniversary of 14 days to flatten the curve. We did it.
15 days.
Or, I mean, at this point, it's 365 days to flatten the curve. We got to celebrate, folks. Folks, this week is the week that my job closed all of its indoor operations. It's the day that everything shut down. It's the day that the stock market, well, not the day, but the week, though, that the stock market had its worst day
Ever.
Ever. It was dropped like 13% or whatever in those days. Many states started locking down. Georgia, it locked down on the 22nd, so we're not quite a year yet, but I mean, we're going to go and celebrate now because, I mean, why not? We're just so excited for it. Man, I am just, we did it. We did it.
We're a year into it.
And because we locked down and we had all these restrictions for a year, the COVID's gone, right?
It's
gone. Right. We have no more COVID, and everything's back to normal, right? 2 weeks. They said, hey, give us 2 weeks, and then you'll have your lives back to normal. Well,
maybe not so much.
Here we are, 2021. Still don't have your life back to normal, and in fact, some people say that we won't have it back to normal even this time next year. So 2 years to flatten the curve. Are we gonna do 2 years to flatten the curve? 2 years?
It certainly seems that way. I don't know if you saw this or not, but Dr. Fauci was at another congressional hearing for the vaccine or whatever, and Rand Paul, I guess, had a statement, and he said, "Welcome to day 367 of 15 days to flatten the curve." And Fauci's just sitting there, just fuming, and they got into it over the
nerve of this guy.
They got into it over the whole mask issue, which I thought Rand Paul was completely rational in his questionings of Dr. Fauci, even though he's been fully vaccinated while he still parades around in 2 masks. I thought that was
theater.
Rand called it complete theater, and Fauci was like, "It's not theater. It's the science."
It's not theater. It's the science. It's the science to wear a hazmat.
Yeah.
I got into a debate with somebody, not a debate, but some idiot, some useful mask idiot tried to one up me, because there was CNBC posted a clip or a photo on Instagram of whenever Fauci said that masks are not political theater, and I said, nah, they are, always have been. And then someone said, why do surgeons wear masks? And I said, because I don't want their spit in my open wound. When they do open heart surgery on them, I don't want their sweat and spittle to fall into my body because yeah,
that might be a problem.
It's also because they don't want bodily fluids to hit them in the face.
Did you see that Biden tripped on his way up the
dude? I saw that
Air
today,
Force
man.
One?
What's funny is that it's not getting like ratioed all over. You remember that one time that Trump was at a campaign rally and he kind of like stumbled and caught his balance, lost balance and caught himself. He was on a stage. It was windy. I get it. Look, coming from the guy who broke his foot walking into work over a parking lot, like I have no room to talk about.
It's true. It's true.
The greatest agility of a human being, but there was someone saying that Kamala is in the bullpen warming up right now.
Yeah.
I was just seeing Biden, and then someone was in the funny post.
Who's going to come in and make the change, though?
There was another funny meme or a Twitter post that said that Kamala put Crisco all over the steps to make him slip and fall. She's like, dang it, he didn't die.
What's funny? I just saw a tweet about this, and it was like, did Putin secretly build the stairs to Air Force One that tripped up Biden? More tonight on the Rachel Maddow Show.
Trump and Putin's connection to the stairs that almost killed Biden. Story 11.
That's right.
But yeah, man, we are 1 year to flatten the curve. So I'm not going to rail on this too much. I mean, I'm going to post some impacts. I mean, we've gone over the impacts of lockdowns on this show multiple times. I'm just going to post 2 articles. One is about the mental decline and mental health of the pandemics, suicides, depressions, all kinds of, fun stuff. Stuff that doesn't really matter when it comes to public health. Yeah, right. Suicide doesn't matter. We don't need to worry about that. Rapid depression and, the destruction of an entire economy and workforce for the upcoming generation. Yeah, not really, not the big of a deal. You can post this. It's the BBC posted all this kind of good stuff, and then CNBC posted. This is back in September of last year, so it has to be even worse now. Headline: Yelp data shows that 60% of business closures due to the pandemic are now permanent. So you have over half of the businesses were permanently shut down as a result of the actions taken to combat. I'm doing air quotes, combat the pandemic. So,
are you saying it's not real, Jacob?
I'm not saying it's not real. I'm just saying that the virus did not close these businesses down. These businesses would have stayed open if it wasn't for the threat of violence against them from the state. They would have still been open. So we have destroyed the economic environment, and we have destroyed the mental health environment of these lockdowns. And there's no end in sight for a lot of these countries and a lot of these places. So I just wanted people to be mindful of that. And maybe some of these normies will listen to libertarians like us, who whenever we say, yeah, BS when it comes to 14 days to slow the spread, they're not going to let this thing go away in 14 days. Just like what I said, it was 3 weeks into the lockdown here in Georgia, and I was pounding the armrest of my chair saying, why are we not open yet? What is going on?
Yeah.
You promised 2 weeks. It's up. The numbers are not improving the way that you said they would. It's time to open this back up. And they didn't do it, and I was pounding my chair and pounding my desk. You can go back and listen to that back in April, I believe, or April or March or whatever. And I was so furious about this.
Yeah, I think we have probably been, I don't want to say the most consistent, but we've been very, very consistent on this from day one. That okay, so the numbers are improving. They always say, well, that's more evidence we have to stay locked down. Well, no, it's not improving. Your plan isn't working. Yes, you can shut everything down, but you're going to have anything left to come back to. And that's what we were most worried about. Because do you care more about jobs than people's lives? Well, I'm sorry, but people's jobs are people's lives. If you can't produce and put food on the table, that's kind of a problem. So,
well, 100%. That's 100%. The fact of the matter is that the poverty is lethal. Poverty kills people. This is backed by numerous data. You can look it up. There is a direct correlation and link between poverty and mortality across the world. Not just in America, but across the world. And people need. If there was ever an example, if there was ever a point where you could look at a situation and say, hey, we don't need more government now. This is what it is right now. I don't know. There's a great tweet that Zuby put out last year, and he said, I don't know anybody that comes out of 2020 saying, yeah, we need more government in our lives. Like, this was this is so great. Even if you were pro lockdown, how do you look at this and say, yeah, man, this was very successful? Like, yeah, this was a great thing that happened. I'll be proud of the success of leaders. I would disagree with their conclusion to that, which is the fact that, we need more government control because there wasn't enough government control. I have been patting the table to open everything up fully. I catch a lot of flack for that. That's okay. I'm used to being called, a grandma killer, and I don't care about people. I don't care about. I'm selfish, right? I've heard being selfish. I don't know how many times from people I know, people I don't know, which is fine. I really don't care what they have to say, because at least I'm not pointing guns at people and telling them, or I'm not advocating for pointing guns at people to comply to my own sense of security. So I'm okay being called selfish.
Well, a lot of people see that, well, if the people in charge, quote, in charge, are not in charge, then we don't have safety, we don't have security.
Which
literally doesn't make any sense. So
it doesn't make any sense. I just want people to realize that maybe the next time a crisis rolls around, that they might be a little bit more hesitant to just give up all of their rights immediately. There's a great quote that I saw that George Washington said. He said, if the freedom of speech is taken away, then the dumb and silent may be led like sheep to the slaughter. Of course, you can apply freedom of speech, the First Amendment, to freedom of assembly, association, press, all that kind of fun stuff. That's what we're seeing right now.
Well, I mean, I got into it with someone on the Tweety about that just this past week. And I had basically said, okay, all you Constitution thumpers, did the Constitution stop the government from shutting down churches and shutting down businesses because of a pandemic? And my point was, it didn't. And this guy came up to me and said, well, that's because of this court decision from 1905. The court decision basically said, in certain times of, quote, crisis, it's okay for personal liberties and social liberties to be squashed because for the quote public good. And I said, I really don't care what the Supreme Court said over 100 years ago. They were wrong then, and they're wrong now. He said, but that decision has been used as precedent since then. I said, again, I don't care. They were wrong then, and they were wrong now. And because, well, just because you disagree doesn't make it wrong. I said, well, the Supreme Court in Dred Scott versus Stanford said that black Americans were not Americans. So, yes, the Supreme Court can be wrong. And then I asked him, why do you trust the words of the Supreme Court? Why do you trust their words as literal gospel? Can't you think for yourself and say, hey, wrong is wrong, right is right? Your rights that are in the Constitution, that are not granted in the Constitution, but just a mere reflection of your rights, saying the Bill of Rights says that the government shall not infringe on those rights, those are absolute. And he said, well, America's not an anarchist state. And I'm like, what? No. If your rights are not absolute, then you don't have rights at all. You just have a set of temporary privileges, which George Carlin was right, because that's one of his quotes. So
you don't have any rights.
They're all just temporary privileges.
Right.
So, yeah.
Someone that, I have
total NPC.
Well, with those people, I've just given up. Like, there's the one person I was talking about why surgeons wear masks. I can't anymore. I legit, I have done so much debating with useful idiots over this stuff. I just don't engage anymore. It's not. And people say, oh, well, you're afraid to debate. No, I'm really not. I've done this so many times, and I'm so jaded to useful idiots, and nothing I'm going to say is ever going to convince these people to change their minds. So it's not worth it.
The guy came back at me with, "Are you against judicial review?" Yeah, I am. And he said, "Well, how can you be against judicial review?" I said, "Because they literally pulled it out of thin air." What basis did they pull that out of? Nothing.
There's nothing.
Nothing.
Basically, it was a court decision.
Yeah.
So they decided upon their own authority.
These unelected, goddesses and gods in black robes just decided that they wanted to do something, and they did it. And then you follow them like sheep to the slaughter.
That's exactly what it is. So, happy 1 year to flatten the curve. May this year be more prosperous and wonderful than the last.
Get out and do something.
Yeah, man, get out, hang out.
Don't be scared. Everyone's going down to Florida and to Texas for spring break. I say join them.
Don't be afraid.
Don't be afraid
right now. So, yesterday, not yesterday. What am I saying? What am I saying? 2 days ago.
What are you saying?
2 days ago, federal chairman Jerome Powell, Jerome.
There you go. Now you're saying it right. It's Brother Jerome.
Jerome Powell came out and gave out an announcement that didn't surprise any of us. People on CNBC are like, "Oh my gosh, this is such breaking news! How could we? No one could have ever seen this coming." The fact that the Fed recommits to keeping interest rates low despite some inflation overshoot, which means is that we're seeing more inflation than the 2%. I know this is surprising everybody that when you print this much money and divvy it out, it gets recirculated. I know this is a surprising fact. I thought it was funny seeing the reactions. Everyone's like, "Oh my gosh!" Like they're not gonna, like, people on Wall Street were freaking out. It's like, "Oh, he's not gonna raise it rates. Oh man, this is such big news."
Really?
Really? It's not like he has how much of a choice. And we're starting to see effects of this, effects of the worrying inflation right now. We can see that the 10-year Treasury bond has gone up and up and up. As you can look at a 5-day or even like a 1-month trend of this thing, it has gone up very sharply considering on how low it was, and now it's sitting at 1.7 172 basis points is what it's sitting at right now. Now, I did share an article a while back. I talked about this a while ago as well. There is an economic study that has gone on that has said that if the 10-year hits 200 basis points or a 2% yield, that it'll wipe out 20% of some of these tech stocks. I'm going to play a video in a second that's going to talk about this. But basically, I've tried to explain this. Whenever you see more inflation, typically tech stocks are more growth. So right now you're buying a stock for the future earnings. But if there's inflation, those future earnings are worth a lot less because the money they make is worth a lot less. So people are dumping them. Saw that happen yesterday. People who watched the stock market yesterday, we had a major drop, like 3% drop yesterday or whatever, NASDAQ stocks. That's the reason why. People are scared that there's going to be inflation, so they're buying like these more startup stocks or these startup companies that are going to be making money. They're not making money now, but in 10 years they'll make money in 10 years. So they're afraid, hey, if there's runaway inflation, this company's not going to survive if there's runaway inflation. So that was the concern. Now, someone who I don't really watch so much for so much of stock picking opinions, but someone who I kind of watch just to kind of gauge a very mainstream approach to Wall Street is Jim Cramer from CNBC, Mad Money. I do enjoy Mad Money. Just so it's a way that I can get the most mainstream voice that's straight to the point of what people on Wall Street are thinking about, and then you can listen to someone like Peter, who's the complete opposite. Yeah. So I get both sides of the spectrum on this. His reaction has been nothing but praise for this man, Jerome Powell, nothing but praise for the actions of the Federal Reserve, and I can't say that this has been some of the worst takes from him I think I've ever seen in my entire life. I'm not saying something because he's had some bad takes, but this has to be probably the worst take. What was the one tweet that he said? It was oh my gosh. He said, "Man, Powell is such a hitter. He is relentless in his desire to help the underclass in this country more than anyone. It is truly incredible and joyous." Bro, I don't know. I don't know how to tell you this, dude, but inflation, if there is inflation, now I'm going to play the video, he talks about if there's inflation or not. Let's just say, for example, that there is inflation. Who's that going to hurt the most? Right?
The poorest among us.
If gas were to hit $4.50 a gallon, and if barrel oil hits $100, and
if your gallon of milk is $4.50,
if your gallon of milk's $4 and a loaf of bread is $6, just to say that, who does that hurt the most?
The poorest among us.
It's not going to hurt people on Wall Street. It's not going to hurt millionaires and billionaires. No, it's going to hurt the family, the single mom who is struggling to get by, who can't afford a $5 loaf of bread or a $6 gallon of milk, or it costs them $80 to fill up their SUV. They can't afford that. So inflation hurts the lowest among us. So keeping interest rates very low and dishing out $1 trillion a day to these big banks so they can circulate the money through the economy, and handing out an inflationary monopoly money, which I've been calling these stimulus checks for the longest time. It's just Biden buck monopoly money. It's created out of thin air, got no backing behind it, and they're just going to inflate the entire currency, the entire market. So this was Jim's take on all of this. There's two videos I'm going to play. I'm going to try to get them through really quickly, but we're going to just go for it.
Here's what has to happen. Yesterday, Jay Powell made a real controversial claim when he explained his decision to keep the easy money flowing. He acknowledged that there is inflation building in the system. He even argued it's going to get worse, so get ready. But then he said it's transitory, so there was no need for the Fed to take action. People laughed at this man. As I mentioned last night, lots of older investors, especially bond investors, think that Powell's lost his mind. Between his rampant commodity price increases and the stimulus checks that are about to hit, well, they're worried about inflation. They're trying to figure out what's with this guy. I thought he was one of us. He's not. Jay Powell's a new breed of Fed chief. We've still got 6% plus unemployment, and entire industries have been devastated by the pandemic. Many minority groups shut out from whatever recovery you think we're having. So he thinks it's nuts to talk about tightening now, and that's what he said, okay? Those are his words. Well, he didn't use the word nuts. I use that because that's like my old way that I like to do it. They know nothing. They know nothing. This guy knows something. Powell knows something. As far as Powell's concerned, it's better to trade higher inflation for lower unemployment, at least until the economy's in much better shape. I think he's right. And not just because the Federal Reserve has a terrible history of moving too quickly to fight inflation that turns out to be transitory. Powell made that mistake himself at the end of 2018. His predecessor, Janet Yellen, did the same thing in late 2015. Yet these tight money types on Wall Street, the real rich ones, never seem to recognize the cost of a rate hike to the average person in the country. Higher, yeah, you get to save a little more, I know that, but it's about jobs. Higher rates are bad for the economy. Powell doesn't want us to take that hit if we don't have to. He doesn't want his legacy to be botched in the recovery, get more people laid off. He done after he acted so aggressively last year to keep the economy from crashing. He was so right, so good. He was second guessed at that time. You know, the S&P dropped 500, just be 500. It dropped 12% when he slashed.
Okay, so you kind of get the idea of what Jim's coming at. His whole message is that a rate hike right now, which is a raise to the interest rates, the raise to the access to capital for businesses, would destroy jobs and would send the economy downward. He is right on that.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
He is 100% right. Jim's 100% right that yes, a rate hike right now, or really any time, would hurt the lower people. It would cut jobs, and it would cause the economy to go into a recession as the economy works itself out and weeds out the bad companies and allows the good ones to come on. That is true. However, as I just said, even if Jim thinks that inflationary is transitory. I disagree. I don't think this is temporary inflation. I think that we are seeing that you're seeing these massive spikes in commodity prices. I saw yesterday on the Wall Street Journal, cover the Wall Street Journal. Lumber is twice as expensive as it has been ever. As it's been ever. Bricks, cement, steel, all-time highs. Copper, approaching an all-time high. That doesn't just happen. That doesn't just happen because there's a temporary shortage in demand. No. People are out there and they're buying homes. Why are they buying homes? Why are they building homes? Because of low interest rates. They were taking on debt that many people can't afford right now because of, well, they're out of work.
Yeah.
So you're creating this terrible situation. And okay, let's just say for example that Jim is right, that we have to keep rates low until we get some kind of better employment numbers. Let's just say that.
And I don't exactly understand how the Fed setting a 2% inflation rate, exactly how that helps create jobs, because whatever benefits you create by lower interest rates for more jobs, you're going to wipe away with inflation. Even if which makes literally no sense if they can keep inflation at 2%. So you're just setting on fire 2% of your money every year. But anyway.
Well, even if he is right, and that we keep the interest rates low, we get back to full employment. Well, what happens? So we can't leave rates this low forever. At some point, you're going to have to bite the bullet, and you're going to have to raise interest rates to a point when it's sustainable. Because right now, we're at an unsustainable course. You cannot keep dishing out this much money forever. You're going to get inflation if you keep doing this forever. So the longer that you postpone the day of reckoning, the worse it's going to get. This is what every single Austrian economist has been saying for the past, I don't know how many years now.
2 decades.
Interest rates have been far too low for far too long. I mean, first of all, the Federal Reserve shouldn't even dictate that. It should be based on the market. It should be based on, I think, wasn't it right as the pandemic hit, I think the interest rates tried to spike to like 30-40% to move money from bank to bank.
You talking about the overnight funds?
Yes. The overnight fund went to like 30% because it was so hard to get hold of money.
Yeah, because
people should be.
Because people want to hold on to their cash.
Yes.
And so the banks were having a hard time keeping their balance sheets clear, so the Fed literally had to issue about $1 trillion a day just so banks could stay solvent. And that's a lot of money. Now, he brought up Janet Yellen. Now, can you answer me this, Jacob? What's the difference between Janet Yellen and Jerome Powell?
I mean, Janet Yellen did raise interest rates at one point towards the end of her. Right. Whenever Trump came into office, she raised interest rates, which caused a bad issue in the markets.
Right, and so Jerome Powell did the same thing. So he's literally so between Jerome, Janet Yellen, and Bernanke, they've all basically had the same policy of low interest rates.
Yeah.
And easy monetary policy and QE. There's nothing different about Jerome Powell versus Janet Yellen. Now, okay, so Jerome Powell is a Republican-appointed Fed chairman. So what? So what? That doesn't make any difference because they're still following the same policy as a Democratic-appointed Fed chairwoman, as in Janet Yellen. So there's no difference. No difference. They're all following the same policies.
Yeah, there's no difference at all. He has one more take. So that was from yesterday's show of Mad Money. This is from 2 days ago, and he kind of gets more into the effects of it and everything. So let's play that.
When I say Jay Powell is subliminally telling us to pay no attention to the inflation boogeyman behind the curtain, I'm acknowledging that my fellow baby boomers, well, they got a point. The big money pullers, especially the hedge fund managers, they believe that Jay Powell's deliberately ignoring inflation because he's not the kind of traditional hard money Fed chair they want. They see Powell as a bleeding heart liberal. Never mind that he was a Republican appointee or that Trump spent years bashing him for being too hawkish. God can't win. All right, where's the inflation? All right, last night we heard from Dow Chemical in this show about how lots of chemical plants are being shut down by big storm in Texas and Louisiana. That's pushing up the price of nearly every form of plastic, building block of our society. These price increases are insane, but they're sticking. We know there's tremendous demand for copper. Look at that price. Aluminum, the latter finally moving up after years of dormancy. Price of lumber doubled in the last year. That's the biggest cost of new housing, besides labor, which is also rising. Today, Lennar reported barn burner of a quarter, in part because they can charge more for houses. Those prices are sticking. We see steel increases one after another after another. Semiconductor prices soaring because of chip shortages all over the place. There's an unprecedented level of demand, and it's not going down anytime soon. The result, cars and trucks cost more, and the scarcity of both is driving up prices, including for used cars. Oh, and don't even get me started about oil. You see that every day. How widespread is inflation? Listen, Hershey caught an upgrade today, and the most salient reason the research firm gave, unlike every other important agricultural commodity, the price of cocoa isn't increasing. Powell sees all this and he dismisses it as short-term in nature. But these older money managers think he's making a huge mistake. Once inflation gets rolling, they believe it spirals out of control. So they're dumping the growth stocks, dumping them because their future earnings are worth less in a world of elevated inflation. Meanwhile, they're piling into the stocks of companies that can put through big price increases. Anything that makes, bends, twists, or spindles a commodity. Like Caterpillar, Deere. All right, how about the second group? That don't worry about a cohort. All right, well, the first group wants to wear silly buttons that say whip inflation now. Those of us in the second cohort, and I count myself as a member, we want a pin that says, I'm with Jay. Why? In part because a lot of these price increases indeed are the result of temporary shortages, like the weather. You give it some time, the bottlenecks will clear and prices will come back down. And if you tighten now and the prices come back down, then we'll have a recession, for heaven's sake. Just as important, if the Fed wants to stamp out inflation, it has to slam the brakes on the whole economy. That seems like a bad deal right now. We still haven't fully recovered from the pandemic. Entire industries have been devastated, service industries. Millions of jobs lost, haven't come back yet. Why the heck would the Fed try to slow down the economy now before everybody's vaccinated, gotten their jobs back? Finally, there's this third group that I like so much, which represents a big chunk of the Robinhood or Cash App, that's owned by Square crowd, who've been drawn in by the commission-free trading and the love of it. Oh, they've tasted it. Now, there are millions of these people who are about to get stimulus checks, and they know they want to put a decent chunk of that money to work in the stock market. So they're buying stocks with gusto. Now, they didn't know that Jay Powell talked today. They didn't. I mean, they may not even know who Jay Powell is. They don't get that stocks have historically keyed off of bonds. They don't care about them. Here's what they do know. You make no money in bonds. True. You make no money in cash. True. But ever since the market bottomed a year ago, you make big money in stocks. True. Their buying is what supports this bull market. They're the ones who can't be bothered with the baby boomers' inflation obsession. They just wish us boomers would just fade away.
Okay, I got a couple of things about this. couple problems with this. It talks about the three groups of people and their approach to this, right? Three groups of people. I have the biggest issue with that last group of people, the Robin Hooders, the people that are just not getting into the market. Again, I have no issue with people putting them in the stock market. I think it's fine. I think investing is great. Putting your money to work is fantastic. But he mentions, okay, you don't make any money on bonds, you don't make money on cash, which is 100% true. You don't. There's no reason to buy
hold on to any of those.
There's no reason to hold on that. Why is that? Why is it that you cannot make money on bonds? Why is it you don't make any money on savings? Have you checked your savings account interest rate? It's like 0.01%.
It's nothing.
I think I made like $5 a year on that thing. I'm up right now more. Yeah. I'm making more money right now than I would be if I were just saving the money, which I've always said. Saving money with a 2% interest rate. 2% inflation rate is what the Fed has already said. So you can go ahead and you can burn 2% of your savings right now if you're not doing anything with it. But why is that? Why is it you don't make money in savings? Why is it you don't make money in bonds? And why is it you don't make money in cash? Because of the Fed, Jim. The Fed. The Fed's the reason why this has all happened. What bank in their right mind is going to offer you a competitive interest rate when they can just get the money circulated from the Fed? What's the point?
Yeah.
The effective rate right now from the Federal Reserve, I think it's 0.07% or something like that. So why the heck would a bank pay you 4 or 5% interest to keep your money in your savings account? There's no point. They lose money.
So what I understand is that he says, okay, the old boomer types, the hard money folks that are freaking out right now because it looks like that Jerome is like, you know what? Inflation, what's that? He says they're freaking out, they're dumping their tech stocks, they're getting more into the industrials and stuff like that. But then he says, well, Jerome's brushing all that off and you don't need to worry about it. Well, Jim, what if they're right? What if they're right? What if Jerome Powell doesn't have the tools that you think he has to stop inflation? Because like Jacob said, this gravy train's got to stop at some point. So whether it's today or it's tomorrow, it's got to stop at some point. But what happens if there is runaway inflation and the Fed does raise interest rates, but they can't raise them high enough to meet the threat of inflation? Let's say that they wildly underestimated the inflation rate and it's reaching double digits. We're in the 10-15 percentile range. How high do interest rates have to go to match that? So that's the point that he's missing. To just say, to put the sunglasses on and just forget about the world and bury your head in the sand is so irresponsible. So irresponsible. And the thing is that he's right. No matter what Jerome Powell does, he's going to get blasted from every single side, from everyone. No matter what he does. If he made the decision like he made this past week about literally doing nothing, he gets blasted. If he decides to raise interest rates and stop QE and all of that, then he gets blasted from people like Jim Cramer. So he's damned if he does and damned if he doesn't. What he needs to be is someone like a Paul Volcker, who has got some thick skin and says, you know what, we've got a problem here, and I have been the one that's been tasked with to fix these things. Now, should he have that power? Absolutely not. But someone's got to pull the strings and make the right decisions here. And this is the problem with the way the American economy works. Nobody wants to see the downside. We only want to see the upside. We need growth, 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 growth. We can never have a recession. We can never have a downturn. That's why institutions like the Federal Reserve exist. That's why you have people like Jerome Powell and Jim Cramer. It's because, well, we can't have a downturn. We always have to see growth, 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 growth. The Atlanta Fed is notorious for being the optimistic one. Even before the pandemic, they were, for, I think, the fourth quarter of, 2019 or 2018, they legitimately posted GDP like 21%, and they always revise it down to 2%. But the whole point of these institutions for their existence is to make sure that there's always capital available for companies to go out and take those loans and to grow, grow, grow. But the problem is that when you have easy monetary policies, when you have easy interest rates, people take risks that they would not normally take. So that's the reason why you have a lot of these startup companies that don't make money. A lot of the tech companies don't make money. In a sound economy with sound money, if your company doesn't make money, Jacob, what happens to you?
You go out of business.
You go out of business. But because they can keep getting loans and more loans, they can pile up debt as high as the eye can see, like the country. We just passed $28 trillion in debt. If you had a system that was based on sound money, on sound principles, that wouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen. But because of low interest rates and allow companies and individuals access to free, cheap capital, basically borrowing money for free, is the reason why you have such outrageous growth, and the reason why you have so many companies that are zombie companies. Like, look at the airlines. Perfect example, the airlines. The airlines are so poorly managed and so poorly run but because they're so large, we can't let them go out of business. It's the same thing that happened with the big banks in 2008, 2009. They are so large and so massive, they can't go out of business because it will disrupt everything. Well, how do you think they got that way in the first place? It's because they were allowed to borrow more money and borrow more money and borrow more money. They were basically bailed out, saying, because you're so large and you're so powerful, you've got so many employees, we can never let you fail. And that's the way they're treating all of these major institutions, all these major corporations.
They're treating the entire economy this way.
Yeah.
The economy is too big to fail. We cannot let this party over.
Right. But the problem is that you cannot do that forever. That cannot go on forever. The bill has to come due forever, right? Just think about it this way. If you decided, well, I can never go bankrupt myself, so I'm just going to charge everything to my credit card, and then I'll just keep getting a loan to pay off the interest for that credit card, for the debt on your credit card. That's the same thing that they're doing. They're just getting another loan, getting another loan, getting another loan, just to pay off the interest, never paying off the principal, but just paying the interest. So,
just servicing the debt.
Just servicing the debt.
Which is the issue that we're seeing right now. That's what people are so scared about seeing the 10-year Treasury rise. It's because if it gets above a certain percentage, the government's not going to be able to fund itself.
They can't do it anyway.
They can't do it right now. They have to. The only reason why they're able to fund themselves is because of the Federal Reserve monetizing the debt. But eventually, they're not going to be able to do it. The issue is that the Federal Reserve can only combat debt by creating more inflation. Because whenever the Fed buys up Treasury bonds, which now the Federal Reserve, the Bank of America, the one who issues out U.S. dollars and controls the United States dollar, the most powerful currency in the entire world, the world reserve currency, is now the biggest buyer of U.S. bonds. It used to be China. And now the Federal Reserve, our own bank, is buying up our own debt. That is the equivalent of paying a credit card off with another credit card. Something's gonna give. You can't keep doing this forever. The bill's going to come due one day. It can be now. And would it suck now? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be really, really bad if we raise interest rates to where they probably should be. They should probably be 15, 20% right now. If the market were to control it, we saw what happened when the pandemic hit. The overnight rate from bank to bank for money went to like 20, 30%. That's really expensive. Because nobody wanted to take money out of nobody wanted to do anything with their money. They wanted to hold it and save it. That's not a bad thing necessarily. You need more savings. You need more investment you need more smart investment into capital, and you need people sometimes to hold on to money. But no, we have to issue out checks. I say don't save your check because it's stupid right now. But in a normal sense, yes, sometimes saving money is awesome. You should be. But why save money? Why save money to go buy that brand new car when you can get a 2% interest rate on your loan and you can pay for monthly payments that you can't afford? Why not do that? Jim does also don't understand the fact that he said that we're giving out these checks and people want to put in the stock market. Jim, do you not see the issue with that? All of these checks are inflation. There is no money. There is no federal, there is no treasury bank. They're sitting there and say, okay, well, we got $2.5 trillion in the treasury fund right now, so we're going to issue that out now in checks. No, there is no treasury fund. There is no money. It's gone. There is a deficit, which means there is no money. We're spending more than we're taking in taxes. It's got to come from somewhere, so they issue out bonds. Well, no one's buying the bonds now because they're too low interest rate. Well, why is the interest rate too low? Because the Fed keeps buying them.
It's a circular
It's
argument.
a circular. It is a circle of hurt for this U.S. economy right now. It's a circle of hurt. At some point, the Fed's either going to have to raise interest rates, which they'll never do, or they're going to keep printing money and issuing money out until the dollar's worth nothing. That's where we're headed, Jim. That's where this country is headed. Because what Jerome should have done when the pandemic hit is said, you know what? Maybe it's time to save some of our money right now. Yeah, it's gonna suck, and yeah, it's gonna hurt. I mean, first of all, you shouldn't have closed the whole entire nation down. But yeah, sometimes you don't need to stimulate the economy. You need to hold on to money sometimes because times are bad. In what economic senses does it make sense that you're seeing all these companies that have record high profits right now, and you see everyone who's going out and buying a new PS5 and a new TV and a new car and a new this and a new that, whenever we're going through this insane recession? How does that make any sense? When times are hard, we're supposed to hold on to money, we're supposed to save it because times are hard. If times are really hard, are you going out and spending money? There's a major issue with this economy, and by Jerome Powell doing nothing except, he's doing the old Pontius Pilate and washing his hands and saying, I'm not going to do anything because if I did anything, then I get blasted from someone from doing this. By him doing nothing, he's only perpetuating the problem. What we have right now is we have a terrible gunshot wound or a knife wound. And instead of saying, yeah, this is going to hurt and we got to go get this looked at by a doctor, nah, I'm just going to put a Band-Aid on, I'm just going to let it go away. It's fine. It might get infected, but you know how bad it'll hurt if I go to a doctor and get this thing looked at. That's what we have. We have a very sick economy. An economy cannot function properly when we're handing out all this money cheaply. We're not building anything. And everything that we're buying comes from overseas. It's not a sustainable system. We can't be dumping all of our dollars overseas to the entire other world and not at some point face some consequences. Every single container ship that comes over to America leaves empty. It leaves empty. At some point, this is all going to come home. Which is why I sounded as I do. Whenever Jerome Powell speaks, I always sound the alarm. I said, hey, you got to get out of the U.S. dollar. It is time. It is beyond time. You can. There's so many ways to do this. Gold, silver, Bitcoin. Like there
anything.
Is anything. I'm not the biggest fan necessarily of Bitcoin. I think it is a viable option. I don't know long term about it. I mean, gold and silver have a perfect track record a long time of store of value. Because if you compare gold to the U.S. dollar. The U.S. dollar's lost like 97-98% of its buying power compared to gold over the last 200 years. So gold has a great track record as far as sustaining money, and so does silver too. See,
the thing about Bitcoin that I don't understand, or cryptocurrencies that I don't understand, is that you're basically buying into nothing because you can't physically hold it. The reason why gold and silver have historically held their value is because in the past they were actually used as currency that you would trade for goods and services. It's not so much anymore because we have paper currency. But with gold and silver, they can actually be used in things, right? Electronics. Gold and silver are great conductors of electricity, and since because everyone has a phone in their pocket, everyone has TVs and computers in their homes, the need for gold and silver is going up and up and up, and so is the price. So that also helps with gold as value because it can actually be used in something. With cryptocurrency, it's not like you can go down to Papa John's and buy a pizza with it. It's just not there yet. So I don't quite see how it has this, I don't see why people see it has such intrinsic value as something like gold or silver does, but because you can't physically hold it. So, I don't know.
Like I said, I'm not opposed to it at all. I'm not there's some people out there who should say that, we should to regulate it and get rid of it. I'm not opposed to it. I just don't know long term how it's going to look. My fear though is that you're going to get a lot of these big banks are buying into it. I think that Morgan Stanley now is officially allowing people to invest in it. My fear is that you're going to have all these banks that are going to buy a certain percentage of the entire market, and then at one point they're going to be like, "Yep, we've made our money. Dump."
Well, I think there were some investor houses that they were allowing you to buy Bitcoin, but you had to have a portfolio of north of $2.5 million, and that's only after
risk.
And that's only after you had an account with them for 6 months, and you were only allowed to buy $50,000 or $25,000 worth of cryptocurrency. So out of $2.5 million, $50,000, that's not that much.
It's because it's the risk allocation to the amount of fun you have in funds. I don't know. People are saying it's going to become a currency. Maybe not. I have no idea. I have no idea whether he's just going to hold. I think I love the
blockchain.
Blockchain. I love that. That's fantastic. We need more of that. We need more of that in
Gitmo, please.
And social media, and we need more blockchain. Like, we need more of that. My only fear, though, is a currency that can go up and down 10% every other day. Oof.
Maybe not.
It's hard for a business. Like, if I owned a coffee shop or something like that, or owned a business, and I was accepting Bitcoin, if it was up 10%, yeah, sure. If it was down 10%, do you want to accept it when knowing it's a very risky, moves up and down. It is a form of gambling, in my opinion, but I think it is something that I'd rather you have your money in Bitcoin than the U.S. dollar.
Yeah.
Because
at least you're making money.
At least there's an upside to Bitcoin, but there is no upside to the U.S. dollar.
Well, I mean, if you listen to Peter Schiff, there's no upside to it.
Well, unfortunately, I think Peter's wrong on that because, I mean, it is up today, so
yeah,
there's upside.
I don't buy into the anti-Bitcoin or the anti-crypto people. I do think that there is a legitimate potential for use for it. I don't think it's been proven yet, but I think there is the potential for a use for it. I just haven't seen it yet, but I'm gonna leave the window open.
But that's the message of that. Last thing I kind of want to talk about was there's a developing story right now in the city of Atlanta. We live not that far away from Atlanta. And that, of course, was the shooting that happened it was in Atlanta. I believe it was at a spa in Atlanta.
Some kind of massage parlor place.
Yeah. And I did have some thoughts on this that I wanted to get off my mind because whenever you see any sort of tragedy like this happen, and an overwhelming majority of the victims are of a certain race or ethnic group or whatever, we scream racism. And whenever the perpetrator is white, we scream white supremacy and terrorism. This happens in every single cop shooting, which there's no evidence. In many cases, there's no evidence at all that this was racially charged or anything like that.
Or even more recently, with George Floyd and Rayshard Brooks, no evidence of racism.
And
no evidence.
Even with Breonna Taylor, who I think is the most. It's Breonna Taylor's case is the most
bad.
It's the most unifying way that you can unify libertarians, Republicans. Everyone can get on board with that. That shouldn't have happened. But again, there's no evidence of the cop going in there and saying, "Okay, well, I'm going to hunt black people." There's no evidence of that. I haven't seen any evidence of this happening. Obviously, this happened against Asian Americans. I guess there's been some kind of anti-Asian sentiment that's been going on in this nation because of COVID, which to me is so stupid. Like, goodness. There's been, I guess there's a white supremacy thing about how the reason why we have this virus is because of Chinese Americans. Which to me is so stupid. It's so dumb.
That doesn't make any sense.
I can listen out to other people's arguments and be like, yeah, you're stupid or yeah, you're wrong. But at least I can listen out to them on some of these other people. But there's stupid. Yeah. The old Chinese man or the old Chinese woman or even anyone who's Chinese or who lived here their entire life. Yep, they're the result of a worldwide virus that spread from a place that they probably have never been. Or haven't been in many, many decades. So that makes a lot of sense. I find that stupid. It's like we don't blame African people for Ebola or HIV or AIDS. Like really? Come on. That's just so stupid. But on this one, they're claiming a lot of the blue checkmark progressive wannabe, a lot of the wannabe progressives are saying that this was a white supremacist and he went in there to kill Asian Americans. I don't know if that's true. There's no evidence that I've seen. If someone wants to shoot me some evidence, I'd be more than happy to look at it. I just haven't found anything. I have the New York Times article right here that I am reading through. Apparently, he did target these massage parlors who happen to be overwhelmingly Asian. That's just typically how it is. That's not racist. That's just how it is. I don't know if that was because it was the establishment or it was because of the race of people that worked there. I don't know. I have no idea. I do find it funny, though, that you obviously have a group of people that are hurting because, Asian Americans don't make up a large majority of the population. I think they fall pretty low as far as a population breakup of the nation. They don't count for that many percentage points of the nation's population. But clearly, you have an entire people group that are grieving right now. And what do these idiots have to say about this on Twitter? You get all these blue checkmark people on there who absolutely piss me off. Here's this one idiot that says, "Please." This is a recently deleted tweet. She said, "Please stop with the Asian Lives Matter hashtag. Once Black Lives Matter, all of us will matter." Excuse me, ma'am. You made the entire world stop when George Floyd got killed. Now again, I have no issue with bringing up police brutality and what should not have been done with George Floyd. I have no issue with that. I'm completely cool with that. No, understood. You want to talk about it? We'll talk about it. Let's go. All down. Offer the same sympathy to other people at the same time, bro. Okay? Someone that you think that we should someone that you feel that we should have a national conversation about, fine. We gave that to you. But whenever somebody else wants it, you gotta offer the same thing. She writes, "Once Black Lives Matter, all of us will matter." So instead of saying, "Hey, even though I can't relate to you racially," which again, if you, that's a whole other issue. Your problems don't matter as much as my problems. Like, yeah, you're grieving, but we're grieving more than you. So you gotta step up your game.
It's the grievance Olympics.
It is the grievance Olympics. That's exactly what this is. And I wrote on Twitter, I said, "Lord forbid we focus on the community that is currently hurting for one freaking second. Gosh, these people are cancer." It's the victim Olympics. It's the grievance Olympics. It's okay. Well, who can be the most
outraged?
Who can be the most depressed and the most outraged about something that happens? And instead of saying, "Hey, you know what? This was a tragedy that was overwhelmingly majority of Asian Americans. Why can't we grieve with them and why can't we listen to them and say, hey, how does this make you feel? Like you made every single white person do when George Floyd was killed, whether they were involved or not.
Not just white people, but everybody that wasn't black.
Everyone that was not black had to stop and shut up and listen to the blight of African Americans, which again, I have no issue with listening to the testimonies and the stories of African Americans. I have no issue with that inherently. It's fine. But you forced everyone to stop what they're doing, and then you forced them to care, whether they liked it or not, whether they were involved or not. People like me were accused of being insensitive and racist because I wasn't outraged enough at it, or the fact that I was more outraged of the aftermath of it versus what actually happened. That people that were completely uninvolved at all lost everything in the riots and the storming of cities, but yet I wasn't tweeting enough, or I wasn't writing on Facebook enough about how evil the cop was that he killed George Floyd, which we had no information of at the time.
We had no idea how exactly that happened.
So I think it's very. It just goes to show that these people are not genuine at all. They're not genuine. They don't care. They care about their issue, and if this was targeted towards any other group besides black people, they don't care. It's not their cause. So whenever another cause happens, they have to redirect it. You realize how she said, Asian lives, and said, no, you're fine. Please stop using hashtag Asian Lives Matter, because Asians, you're fine. Don't worry about it. You'll get over this. But us black people, we're the ones that are really
hurting here.
Yeah. It is the oppressive Olympics. It is the grievance Olympics. It is the outrage Olympics. It's cancer. It needs to stop. I'm so sick of this. I'm so sick of this who can be more outraged. Folks, if you clutch your pearls anymore, you're going to choke yourself to death. I'm being serious.
You're right. You're right.
So instead of maybe you saying, well, how can I turn this back on what I care about and who I am and my concerns? How about I don't sometimes? Maybe everything's not about me. What about you? That's all I got to say. I don't know if you had anything else you want to say on that.
No, I largely agree with everything you said. Again, these are the same people that say that the relations between white Americans and black Americans are irredeemable. So then I guess we'll never make any changes.
Yeah, they're irredeemable, so why try?
These are the same people that have set up an autonomous zone or where George Floyd died, and it's all out hell where people live there. There was an article that I read just yesterday about it. Kids playing in the yard while gunshots are ringing out because police are not allowed in, first responders are not allowed in. In order for a guy got shot over the weekend, and in order for him to receive aid, they had to basically stuff him inside of a two-door sedan to take him to the hospital because they wouldn't allow the ambulance in because they had concrete barriers set up because progress. And there's a Black Lives Matter fist in the shape of the communist fist at the center of George Floyd Square. And people are legitimately going up to it, grieving and crying and almost like praying to it, which is so weird. Like, okay, I get, I can somewhat sympathize with the pain that people feel with the death of George Floyd. I get it. It shouldn't have happened. He got picked up over a counterfeited $20 bill. That's stupid. Eric Gardner, loose cigarettes, shouldn't have happened. The cops shouldn't be enforcing stupid laws like that. But he died. But at some point, you have to move on from this. At some point, you say, you know what? There's going to be a trial. The city has already claimed they've already settled with the family over a wrongful death lawsuit. Derek Chauvin's going to trial. You'll get your day in court. But at some point, you got to move on, right? You can't just shut down an entire city block because some guy died. I'm sorry, but George Floyd wasn't the best of people either, okay? I'm just going to be honest with you, all right? The guy had enough drugs in his system. He had a bad past. I'm not saying that his death is okay in that matter, but at some point, you got to pick better heroes. You got to pick better martyrs. That's all I'm trying to say. So, and the very people that are being hurt in the city around George Floyd Square are the same people who are complaining about how bad it is for black people. Well, it's a self-own. If you're shutting down the city where George Floyd died because things are so awful, you're still hurting yourself. So, at some point, you got to move on. Anything else?
Nothing much for me. I do agree. I think the message is maybe, hey, don't be so selfish, man.
Yeah.
Look at others.
Other people matter too.
Whether they look like you, believe different things than you, they're still people. You should still care about them. I think it's the core message.
I mean, saying that it's not until Black Lives Matter, isn't that kind of a racist thing? That's only about you, in your tribe. Isn't that kind of a racist thing to say? That no one else matters until we matter.
Or no one else matters except for us. I mean,
right.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Perhaps. Well, that's for the show for this week. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you leave us a like, and I hope you if you're on Apple, leave us a review. It really helps us out a lot. It's really nice of you.
Share it.
If you want to go a step further and you said, hey, I enjoy this show. I think these two guys are awesome and I would like to support them financially. Well, now there's a chance to do that. You go to patreon.com/Standing Brothers Show, or you can click the link in the description of this podcast, and you can do that for just $5 easy a month. Get you access to the show a day early, and it's a way to help us out. All the money that we get from this is going to be reinvested into better
equipment,
audio interfaces and equipment, and
it'll pay for the hosting fees.
Yeah, the hosting fees as well, because those are all out of pocket right now. So, excuse me, that is what the money's going to. We're not going to be, going to Vegas. We're not going to Vegas and living large. No, this is all going to be reinvested back into the show. So it would be really appreciative if you guys would shoot us some money. We would
greatly
we would appreciate it that you would give us money, and we'd greatly appreciate it.
That's right.
But you can follow me on Twitter at jsanders_.
And follow me at Joe Stamberg on the Tweety.
That's right. And the email is StandingBrotherShow@gmail.com. We will see you guys Monday for the next show, and I hope everyone has a fantastic week.
Peace.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. Roger, Tranquility. We copy you on the ground. We got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We're breathing again. Thanks a lot.